What's going on, guys? I'm Tyler, and to continue my brand new series of classic movie reviews, I'm here to let you know that It's a Mad, 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 Mad World is no perfect movie in a really crappy title. It's actually probably the worst thing about this movie, which really isn't even that bad of a statement. Anyways, Mad Mad World is about a group of strangers who stumble across a dying criminal who, in his last breath, reveals that he buried $350,000, which nowadays is about $3 million, in a California state park under a big W. And since the eight of them can't decide on how to share the money equally, it becomes a winner takes all race to get to that park. And for various circumstances, they keep inviting friends, family, and strangers into the race, which just complicates things for everyone, including a police chief played by Spencer Tracy, who is watching all of them very closely as best as he can. And I was super excited to watch this movie just based on how many things I've heard about it, how it's one of the best comedies, how it was angry video game nerds' favorite movie of all time. I saw how many talented and funny actors were in this movie, let alone the ones who just appear in cameos. And the whole idea of Stanley Kramer, the director of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, having directed a comedy before he made Guess Who. And I just sat there and I thought, that's a very odd mix, but I would love to see this large scale slapstick comedy and hopefully be funny. And you know what? It's a Mad, 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 Mad World might be one of the funniest comedies I've ever seen in my life. And I figured that out just by watching the animated title sequence at the very beginning. It was made by, sorry if I get his name wrong, it's either Saul Bass or Saul Bass. I didn't see the Royal Ocean video essay. I'm sorry, I didn't. But he's an animator who made title sequences that were really creative and witty and got people excited for the movie that they were about to see. And what was really interesting was that this title sequence is just taking the globe, the world, and coming up with so many creative sight gags and bits that you could do in order to get people excited. They have an entire sequence where everyone's names are in alphabetical order and then hands come out of the globe to rearrange them. There are people that come out of the globe doing these really awkward gags that are kind of foreshadowing the events of the movie. And I even found out that Bill Melendez, the voice of Snoopy, was actually one of the animators. You know, it's a great sign when the title sequence is one of your favorite parts of the movie. But easily the best part is seeing all of these famous actors and their interactions with each other and the slapstick that comes with it. You have got, shit, where do I even start on this one? Milton Berle, Ethel Merman, Buddy Hackett, Mickey Rooney, Phil Silvers, Jonathan Winters, Spencer Tracy, among many others, do some of their absolute best and funniest work. Two of my favorites in particular were Mickey Rooney and Buddy Hackett, as these two buddies who are incredibly loyal to each other, but they're equally dim-witted, so that whenever they're in danger, in fact, they're the characters who are probably in the most danger in this entire movie. Whenever they're in trouble, it is always hilarious to watch them yell and scream at each other, and then look at the situation they're in and scream together. It was just hilarious. I loved every single second that they were on screen. Milton Berle is a character that you can easily identify with as a complete pushover. He's constantly bossed around by his mother-in-law, and his wife is so much more loyal to her mother than him. And there comes a breaking point where you do really wish that you could just take these people for him and absolutely just scream in their faces, tell them off for how wrong they are. And eventually he does, but it comes to a point where, with this new sense of freedom, that he can say or do just about anything. And it keeps you rooting against him because he's going about the way we wanted him to go about it in the absolute wrong way. And it's actually what makes him an easy character to laugh at when he does some of the more risque jokes, especially involving Ethel Merman, who, one of the best comedic villains ever. You feel absolutely nothing for her because of her bossy attitude, her loudmouth insults, her know-it-all attitude that disregards everyone's feelings except for her own. And whenever anything bad happens to this bitch, which is quite often, you feel so relieved, you laugh at her in an instant, it goes without question. Her bossiness and unlikability is actually the one thing that every character in this movie can actually agree upon. And it leads to a joke at the very end of the movie that I won't spoil, but they took a stupid joke and elevated it by putting such an unlikable character as the butt of that joke. And there are so many other characters that I could go on and on about, but I'm going to try and leave it at this. The characters that I felt sorry for the most were Jonathan Winters, who spends a good chunk of the movie at the very dead last of the race, especially when he meets this slimy sort of con man drifter played by Phil Silvers. Shit. Most of these guys I've seen like once or twice, but some of them I've seen clips at like my grandma and grandpa's house, and I know how funny they already were. But seeing Jonathan Winters interact off of Phil Silvers as this incredibly cocky and full of shit con man, Winters' expressions are so exaggerated and over the top that you laugh at him, but you feel sorry for him because he's absolutely losing his mind. One of the most jaw-dropping moments is just him and these gas station attendants, and that's all I'm gonna say. And the one character that you feel sorry for, but you don't really laugh at all that much, is Spencer Tracy as this one police chief who, at first glance, you think is an honest cop who really does do everything by the book. And you get the sense that he feels that way about himself. But then when his own life is crumbling personally in regards to his wife and his children, you really feel sorry for him, and you kind of understand why he's following these guys around. He definitely wants in on the money, but you root for him most because he's the smartest person to go about it. He's very patient, very calm, and I won't spoil it, but when he does get close to that money, it leads to a couple huge surprises that I don't think that people can anticipate, but the execution and the payoff were just as jaw-dropping and mind-blowing as any other moment in this movie. And speaking of jaw-dropping, the physical comedy, the slapstick, the action scenes are all so fantastic, and the best part is they're all practical. Again, you wouldn't expect the director of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner to make a slapstick comedy, but since this wasn't an era where if you could do anything, you did it practically, and if you couldn't do it, you didn't do it at all, I guess there really wasn't any way to go wrong there, because the constant car chases are all filmed on actual streets. Actual cars get wrecked, they get flipped. Actors actually fall out of the car upon impact or even get dragged along, and your jaw is open the whole time, or you're just laughing so hard that you're out of breath. It's insane the things that they got away with. There's some airplane stunts that you would not imagine anyone doing today. I couldn't even imagine Christopher Nolan doing stunts like these today. And that really just goes to show how impressive the stunts were and how hardworking the filmmakers were. Even in really cheap rear projection shots where the actors are clearly interacting off of a fake background, they still look incredibly tangible because the actors have an actual background to look at. It's not like a green screen where they have to imagine everything. If there's another car or a plane following them, they can actually see the car or plane, and it can affect their expressions. It can make the performance feel so much more genuine. And at a runtime of 2 hours and 43 minutes, you need that constant energy and constant investment in what's going on screen to really get you all the way through. And I'm happy to say that for 2 hours and 43 minutes, I was never bored. But there were a couple parts where I was kind of wondering where the story was going, and maybe not in the best way. Because there are certain characters that I think were focused on more than others. I mentioned how much I liked Mickey Rooney and Buddy Hackett, but there's like a good 20 minutes or half hour where it felt like they weren't in it at all. They were focusing on this one dentist and his wife who gets stuck in this one location for the majority of the movie, and the jokes around them center on how they can't get out of this one location. And on the surface level, it was really funny, but it wasn't on the same level, it wasn't on the same stakes or tension or hilarity as the other characters were. You obviously had to spend more time with Milton Berle and Ethel Merman to have that incredibly tense back and forth between the two of them, and this one other character named Sylvester, who a lot of people consider their favorite. He was fine. I didn't really think he was in it enough to really give me that much of an impression. If I laughed more than once at him, it was because of those stupid red shorts that he's wearing throughout the entire thing. Seriously, was that a thing back then? And if there's anything that I hate on the same level as that incredibly long title, it's that most of the cameos in this movie really serve nothing to the story. If you guys hate lazy and forced cameos in modern movies, watch It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. They're gonna make modern cameos seem Oscar worthy and stunning. And I can point to one specific example. There is a scene where at an airport there is a firefighting crew waiting for the plane that Mickey Rooney and Buddy Hackett are on. And some of the firefighters that are waiting for them are the Three Stooges. And one of them, and they're all holding up various different props. One's holding an axe, one's holding a hose, one's holding nothing, but that doesn't matter because there's still possibilities. And you're so excited, you're just sitting there going, oh my god, the Three Stooges, what are they gonna do? I'll tell you what they're gonna do. They stand there for 5 seconds, and then you never see them again. There are so many cameos that are just them for shows. They're just modeling. They're not contributing anything to the overall story. There's a Jerry Lewis drive-by cameo for no real reason other than to go, "Hey, lady," and he doesn't even do that. Because seriously, how funny would that have been if he had said that? That's not to say every cameo goes to waste. My favorite in particular is Carl Reiner as this air traffic controller who thinks he knows what he's doing and then starts to completely unravel as Rooney and Hackett are stuck in the sky. That part was really funny, and if the cameos in this movie were more like that, then I'd be fine. And in regards to, I'm just realizing, I mentioned how there were 2 points where I was just wondering where the movie was going. One of those was actually near the very end, because without spoiling anything, once they get to the treasure, there's still a half hour left of the movie. And for a while, you're just going to sit there and go, what else is there to cover? But I'm happy to say I was proven wrong on that end, because it does lead to yet another fantastic car chase and a finale that, wow, oh my god, it was just... You could have sat for the entire movie and just seeing the finale would have been completely worth it. It was so creative. It was so practical. Every character that you couldn't stand got its fair share. The overall ending itself I kind of anticipated because most movies back then had to have an ending like that, but nevertheless, it still served the themes of how greed makes us less trustworthy, less cooperative, less happy with ourselves. Which is interesting, like, because Stanley Kramer, the director of Guess Who, I'm going to keep saying over and over again, he liked making movies that had overarching themes, and the themes of greed really do go well with comedy, because anything that can go wrong absolutely does, especially when you put valuables and possessions over yourself and the loved ones in your life. And the great thing is, the themes really did add to the comedy and the back and forth banter between all of these incredible actors and their characteristics. I mean, after all, the big W, that is a symbol for wealth and winning of all things. And I don't really know what else to say about It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, other than it was hilarious, it was incredibly well acted, the direction was absolutely outstanding, it was made in 70mm to get that large scope of this treasure hunt, and the effort goes to show. And that's the best thing you can say about this movie. The effort paid off so well. I encourage anyone to seek out this movie. I would check it out on the Criterion channel. I would do the 2-week trial, and then you can get this movie as well as many others that I will review in the future. And without wasting any more time, I'm going to give It's a Mad, 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 Mad World a 4.5 out of 5. Guys, thanks as always for watching. If by any chance you have seen Mad Mad World, let me know in the comments below what you thought of it. And I've never actually seen Rat Race. Is that just as funny? Is it better? Is it worse? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to stay tuned for more classic movie reviews, and be sure to like and subscribe. Take care.